Hey friends, welcome to the Sunday School Club. Today's episode is a hallway chat episode, and what that means is last episode I was talking a lot about some subject. This last episode was Jonah and the whale. And this episode, just like you do in real life, we're going to go out into the hallway and chat about what we just learned and everything else under the sun with a friend. Today's guest is a sweet friend I met at the She Speaks conference last year. I was instantly drawn in by her kindness, authenticity, and cute outfit. She's a writer often musing about grief, infertility, and church hurt, all so that believers can heal and live. Please welcome to the show, Alisha.
Hi.
Alisha, I am so thankful that you said yes to this. You were one of my first friends I made networking.
That's amazing. I'm happy to be here. I'm so excited you're doing this and honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. Okay, since you and I even aren't as old friends as some of the other people I'm interviewing, I figured we should start on something kind of fun, let the audience get to know you, and we can even get to know each other a little bit better. What are some happies in your life right now? Some little small joys.
I also love calling them happies. That's fantastic.
It's so fun. Little happies.
I love that. And first of all, I'm in a big butter yellow mood.
Okay.
Everything.
Yes.
That's just where I've been. There's lime green here, but it's still kind of the same thing. But yeah, so yellow things, but sunshine. I'm a big sunny days person, and we've been having a lot of sunshine recently, which is, I don't even mind that it's getting hot. I just like that it's not rainy and dreary, and it brings joy to my heart. Also, my dogs, I have 2 labs, so Gibson and Hoover, those are my babies, and they are the goofiest, craziest dogs, and they just bring a lot of happies and a lot of hair to my life.
Happies and hair. Sometimes you can't separate them.
Yes, exactly. And then I would just also say, I'm a big happies person, so I have lots of little things, like my iced coffee that my husband makes, just made me after our Sunday nap. That's bringing me happies.
Oh, a Sunday nap.
Yeah, a Sunday nap. And just my husband. Like, we've been married for 11 and a half years now, and we're in a really good spot with each other with our relationship, and are just finding a lot of joy together in this season. So I'm really thankful.
Man, that's so fun. There's something special about getting to see the sun, and you're like, wow, life is good again.
Literally. I was just talking, Brian's my husband. I was just talking to him the other day, and she was like, man, January, February, man, we're just rough. I was like, yeah, I think we just needed spring. Like, we were in the winter, we just were like, not okay.
In my last hallway chat episode with a guest, it was on the Garden of Eden and everything, and I was talking about how frustrated I am that sometimes I have to go outside to not get in a bad mood. And I'm like, what? And why am I a plant? And then my friend had like a extremely eloquent answer that was like spiritual and beautiful. And I was just like, wow, that was good. I was just frustrated that I'm like, I need sun.
Yeah,
like,
we're a complicated houseplant. That's
all.
Absolutely true. I know. I'm like, also shameless plug. This is random. And I don't even know why I said shameless plug. It's not like I know her. This benefits me in any way. But Ella Langley has an album out, like, that came out around spring, and there's a song called Loving Life Again, and it's now I'm back to loving life again.
Yes.
And I just keep thinking that whenever it's like the sun comes out, I'm like, I do love my life.
Yes.
I just needed sunshine. So
I have had, so when it comes to music, I'm a bit of a boring person where I'll find like 5 songs that I like, and I will just play those to death for like a month, and then I'll find 5 new songs, and then that's about it. And Ella Langley's Loving Life Again, and then Ray's Joy, and then oldie but goodie Casey Musgrave's Butterfly Season are all like my repeat. And I'm realizing as you're talking, there's like this big theme of like, okay, something was dark and hard, but now it's beautiful and we love life.
Well, we're on the same exact path.
Okay, I love it.
Because those are 2 of my hyperfixation songs right now, Joy and Loving Life Again. And then, so on the same album, Ella Langley does Butterfly Season with her and Miranda Lambert is what that song's called. And that's the same kind of vibe. It's like, it's time to spread your wings. And I'm like, we're on the same path.
We got it. There is something about summer that makes me listen to country music.
Okay, same too. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what it is, because I'm not actually Southern. I'm fake, I'm flirty, and I'm fake Southern. But there is something in the summertime where I'm like, I think I'm country.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
could be a little Georgia peach.
Oh yeah. I think just driving around in the sunshine, you need a little like acoustic guitar and all that. And so then you get into country music, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun finding different ways that are kind of markers of seasons
Yeah.
that has helped me be more present in them. And
Yeah.
have you ever heard of, what is her name? Emily P. Freeman?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
she talks a lot about seasons.
Yeah.
And one thing, and so does her sister, Michael and Smith and Esther.
Yeah.
Emily P. Freeman's big thing podcast is the Next Right Thing.
Mhm.
And she first talked there about like making a playlist per season.
Yep.
And that's been a lot of fun. But I just feel like I don't even have to make a formal playlist for summer. It's just country music.
Yeah. I'm a big playlist person in general, so I have playlists for lots of different moods and vibes, and sometimes it's summer or fall, and sometimes it's just like my current one is called Just a Girl. I'm just a girl, and it's just my girly songs on shuffle.
Okay, yes, we're on the same page because I have
Yeah.
a playlist I made recently called Girly Bops.
Yeah,
And sometimes you just want to be
and yeah,
Good.
and like nerding out. Like my husband got me these for Christmas because they were on my list, my headphones, and I had never been an over-ear headphone person. And for some reason, I don't know, they make me so happy, but I'll just put them on and have my music on, and I can do all my chores, all my household chores
Oh,
with
yeah.
so much more joy because I'm just like dancing around and I'm not stuck anywhere. And I don't know, it's just
I feel like the overhead headphones give like Lizzie McGuire.
is that what it
vibes.
is? Is it our millennial dreams?
I think it is. I think that's what it is. Or like Cheetah Girls. I feel like
Yeah.
there has to be a scene where they have overhead headphones on
Yeah,
and you're
I-
just like,
that's true. And there's something about it that, I don't know. I think it's just a mental thing. Like maybe for my ADHD self, it feels like I'm in my own little world. Like I'm just like right here in my safe zone.
and like normal, the AirPod shape, like those kind of hurt. I don't know.
Yes,
My ears
that
not the
too.
right size. I don't know.
Yeah.
But these are just a lot more comfortable.
Yep, I agree. Big fan.
Okay, so like I said earlier in our intro, this whole hallway chat is on Jonah and the whale. But before we jump to Jonah and his whole adventure, I wanted to ask you, who is there a Bible character that isn't, Jonah, we kind of walk through how he's actually maybe not the hero. Is there anyone in the Bible who isn't a hero necessarily, but you have a lot of like compassion and sympathy for?
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel like maybe when I say this, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. Like I think it actually can be more of a problem in my life that I'm a very compassionate, empathetic person, and so probably more often than not, when I'm reading through the Bible, I'm like, it's not that I go, I just feel so bad for this person that like I'm upset about. It's not like I'm upset at God about the way this happened or whatever, but I'm like, I have so many questions. Like, why did it have to be like this? And I'm trying to decide how weird to get with you right now. And
If anyone even listened to the last episode, if anyone listens to any of the episodes where it's just me talking, the fact that I have to talk for like 20 minutes straight, it's gonna get weird. And that's my one promise to them.
yeah, my honest answers is what I'm going to give you. And I'm going to leave off my, no, I need a better, pretty Bible answer. Fine. I feel like the whole concept of Judas in general is hard for me,
Yeah.
because you're like, man, he walked closely with Jesus the whole time. And that means, Jesus knew all of his stuff too, like knew his heart. Obviously, Jesus knows everything, but knew him closely. And my brain always just goes, because we hear the story talked about Jesus being the betrayer and no one could have done worse than Judas. And I'm like, but someone had to be that guy because this was the plan and this was what Jesus was going to be. So I'm always thinking like, man, I feel bad for Judas sometimes because I'm like, someone had to do it, I guess, because that's what he was going to do. But, that's my, obviously he wasn't a hero, but I just think there's, I don't know, more to it than us just going, oop, bad guy,
Yeah, he's like wasn't the guy walking around with like a devil horns on the whole time. So I 100% agree that like Judas like betraying. I mean, even the fact that everyone at the table was like, "Who?" It wasn't like Judas.
I know.
It wasn't like we've been waiting.
I know. I always think about that. Just even in in the biblical story where it's like, the one who's dipping his hand in the bowl with me right now is the one who betrayed me. And I'm always like, so not everyone just like jumped on his case right then. Like, what do you mean? What's happening? Like everyone's just kind of like, nah, no
Yeah.
way.
They're like, Jesus and his riddles, man.
Yeah, what does he mean?
He always
Judas
be
is like,
saying things. He's always like, I'm gonna die and raise again. And they're like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. What is he talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think I have a lot of compassion for the disciples too, because I think like they
yes.
do get a hero painting, but in the beginning they're really dumb, and I feel like if I, I don't know what's gonna happen exactly when I get to heaven, what like knowledge I'll have of my life here on earth and what choices I've made. But if like some people say there's like a screen and you just watch back your life, I'm sure
Yeah.
the narrative for my life isn't gonna be much different.
Oh. I mean,
Where,
even our heroes are, pretty messy.
oh
So
yeah.
I think that's it, even in Jesus choosing the disciples. I mean, he picked very ordinary men,
Mm-hmm.
of the time, and it wasn't like the shiniest, best, most impressive, rich, whatever ones. It was like these are just normal people, and I think that's the whole point: is that none of us are perfect. None of us are really heroes in the story. Like it's Jesus is the only perfect one. So I think it just is a good picture. And even, I mean, sometimes I think we, we'll probably get into this talking about Jonah, but the ones of us that are the hardest on it, thinking a character like Judas or whatever, it's like, well, we're kind of Judas too. We've been
Yeah.
Judas too before. And so just kind of knowing that we all fall short.
Okay, so this show is obviously titled The Sunday School Club, and the root of that is, childhood Sunday school. I was really blessed with this sweet, kind of picturesque, tiny little white church on the side of the road where I spent my elementary years and where I got saved. And I had a Sunday school teacher named Miss Evelyn who was old the whole time that she taught me. And I think I would go back and visit randomly because I don't live in that city anymore. I would go back and visit randomly, and she was still there and still ancient. And I don't understand her longevity, but I guess the key to life is to teach Sunday school. So I'm really hoping that this counts. But with that, what is your relationship to the church? Did you grow up in church? How'd you find the church? Where do you land today with the church?
That is a big question.
Yeah.
No, I did. I grew up in church. I'm a church kid my whole life. My parents got radically saved before I was born and were just very passionate about Jesus, about the relationship with God. And so we were in church all the time growing up. We were in one of those, I don't even want to know. I mean, I guess we were technically non-denominational, but I always say kind of Pentecostal. Like I grew up with all these crazy flag wavers and all,
The
like
flags.
very passionate people. And it
Yes.
was it was beautiful, but like I remember so much of my childhood was just like sitting under the chairs coloring late night services because there were services like everything, like all the time. We were
Mm-hmm.
always at church.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's kind of the denomination or what we were around, it was more there were very genuine people, so this is not meant to say it as a judgment or
Yeah.
anything, but it was more experience and more like just a lot of worship and a lot of there was preaching, but I didn't absorb that much of it as a young kid. But separate from that, we would go to my grandparents' church on Wednesday nights, and so we were in missionettes with their church.
Uh-huh.
So I got to learn all the things, and my grandma taught Sunday school for many years. So whenever we would go
She
to her
lived long.
church, yes, yeah, she's 90. And it's actually really cute. She has a touch of dementia right now, not like officially.
Hmm.
I mean, it is official. It's not full. Like
Yeah.
she's still a lot of hers there, but there's a lot of times she gets confused. And the other day she hasn't, I mean, taught Sunday school in 10 years now. And the
Yes.
other day
Fair.
we've gotten her these like Christian coloring books with like an adult coloring book with Bible verses and stuff. And she's just like, yeah, this is what I like to do to get ready for Sunday school. I'm going
Aw.
to teach. And I was like, I'm literally about to cry. I know. I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, I'll come
I
to
know.
class.
I know. I was like, man, but it just brought me back to all those years she did that. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here.
No,
it's
but I love
because-
this.
It's because in hindsight, I think I grew up in a more modern context of the church as far as like the 90s and early 2000s. And it's because my grandparents raised my dad and, their family in like a more conservative church where there was always Sunday school, Bible study, like that kind of stuff. And I think because my parents had such a radical salvation that they just fell in love with Jesus, they just wanted to see more of like the gifts, and they wanted to see like all of the miracles and all the things. And so they ended up more in like a non-denominational world. And I think coming back around through growing up in that, I'm like, we need both. We need Sunday school still. We still need to like be taught about the Bible. And but my husband and I had been married for 11 and a half years. We have led worship since we were teenagers. So we came up in youth group doing that together. We've been together for 20 years because we were 14 and 15 when we started dating.
14 and 15?
Yeah, we wouldn't have babies. Yeah.
That's
we were not
crazy.
Yeah. My dad would like to make it clear we were not allowed to date then, but
that's when you were really good friends with him.
Yeah, exactly. But we were at school together. We were at youth group together. We were leading worship, all these things.
And leading worship together, forget it. That you're done. You're done for.
I mean, he had a guitar. What do you want from me? I was just a girl.
You were just a girl.
But no, it was such a sweet way to like grow up together through all of that. And we, right after we got married, we ended up moving to a new city to be worship pastors at a church. And it was only a 2.5-year period we were at that church, and I don't want to paint it as all bad, because there was so much good that we learned, and there was so much community and so many ways we grew, just in our relationship with God, in our leadership, in our relationship with each other, and just learning how to become worship leaders and all of that. But it turned into like a spiritually abusive environment, and we learned a lot through that season. And so that's one of the catalysts of what made me start talking about church hurt. So if you ever see me on Instagram talking about church hurt, it's really started from this 10 years ago now, almost, journey of just kind of being a very naive church kid, because that's how I grew up. And we didn't really have a lot of boundaries, which now we know a lot that we wouldn't just go along with, because we thought it was the right thing to do, just to be quiet and just to be, honor authority at all costs. And so we just kind of, walked through some hard things that we should have had some boundaries. We should have known some ways to not get ourselves into that situation.
Go ahead. And like, you don't have to go into too much detail if you don't want to, but say we have someone who is listening who, it's their first year or two in full-time ministry, or even they're that volunteer that should probably be on the payroll, but is just super eager, loves the church, their heart is in the great place. What are some just guidelines you would give them to be like, hey, I love that. I want to keep you going in that direction. But like, these are just good ways to make sure you're staying safe in the process. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things I could like wait to red flags and all of that. But a lot of it is, one, being sure that you have a solid foundation in the Lord first, and that He's the one that you're doing this for, whatever it is, that He's the one that you want to please. And therefore, if you're solid in that, you're not going to be tempted to please man and to bend yourself all different ways to make that work. But as far as just practically, like, you should see the fruit of the Spirit in people. That you should see love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, faithfulness. And I don't mean hold people to a standard of perfection, because people are people everywhere you go. And
people gonna people. And that's
what
people do.
And even the best people have bad days, and that's valid. But the genuine people will ask for forgiveness, and they'll fess up to having a bad day. They will point you towards Jesus, not to themselves. And I just think one way to say it is, we felt like, wow, once we really started being honest about our experience, we were like, we're not living in freedom. This feels very much like bondage. And it wasn't just our schedules. Our schedules were full of church things. And I think you can go through seasons where your schedules are full. And I know, I feel like burnout's a totally different conversation. Like, you can be burned out, but don't have to necessarily be spiritually abused to be burned out. Like those are different things, you know?
Yeah.
But I would say the situations for us that made it really clear, were kind of revealed in hindsight. After we finally left that church, we realized they're going to see a therapist and all these things. Like this pastor had kind of driven a wedge between me and my husband. Like he would meet with us separately and like talk about the other person of like, she doesn't respect you and, she doesn't trust you and all these things. Like, so all these issues that we didn't have. And it was just strange. Let alone there was a lot of, like, I know everything has a narcissism label on it right now, but there was validity to me learning about what narcissistic traits really look like, because it will make you feel crazy. And I think we got to this point where we were so afraid to be the problem. Both my husband and I are conflict avoidant people, like him more than me, but we both don't like conflict. We would like everyone to get along. We would like to not burn bridges. Like people matter to us so much. And this pastor and his wife were people that were in our life for a long time. And we really cared about them and what they thought of us. And it just added all this mess to things. But yeah, it was an unhealthy situation. I'm thankful that it's actually hard to talk about as far as remembering the details, because I feel like there's been so much healing that I'm like, you know what? It's okay. We're moving forward. But there are people I talk to still in my DMs like every few weeks that have a very similar situation. And what I was going to say is we basically finally started thinking, I think we need to bring some third party into this and talk about it with some of our trusted friends back home, because we did not want to bad talk authority or like sow division or anything like that. So we had kept it inside for a long time. And finally, when we started sharing it with people that we loved and trusted, like just gauging their reactions and realizing this was actually a lot bigger of a deal than we were making it, it was just helpful to go, okay, no, we're not crazy. Like, there's some validity to this. But there's so many details I could get into, and I'm trying not to. But basically, since then, like we walked through a lot of healing, and it's taken a long time. Like last year, it was like 7 years since we had left that church, and I really felt like the Lord was like, that was our healing. Like our healing was almost complete in 7 years, which sounds very Christian to be like the number of completion. But I just had realized it was 7 years, and I was like, man, it really feels like something shifted this year. Like we were able to fully like let go and move forward. But what I don't want to do is give people a list of like, oh, if this is happening, leave your church. If this is happening, blah, blah, blah. Because sometimes God does call us to stay somewhere that is really hard. And I don't mean abusive, but, difficult.
But hard.
And it's hard to discern the difference. And I think that, that's going to be different case by case situation, but hard, and people are hard. And when you're in ministry, people are the mission, and that can sometimes be the person on your worship team. That can sometimes be the pastor, but like people are difficult.
Well, and I think it even goes back to what you first said when I said, what advice would you give? And you said, make sure you're doing this for God, not for man.
Yeah.
Because that's when then you can discern, okay, am I staying in this difficult situation because I'm afraid to let down this leader who's probably unhealthy and I don't need to be entangling my self-worth and my value to? Yeah. Or am I staying in this hard position because I know I've been on church staff before, and then I've also been at a couple churches, and I've also worked at a private Christian school as a Bible teacher. And while that's different, it had many of the same flavors. And that I had a pretty tough situation happen in that institution where I loved a lot of people, because it was also the school I grew up in. And so there's lots of entanglements of emotions. And if you go to church with people, you're going to love them, you do life with them, all these things. But that's, having God at the center of, okay, this is why I'm doing this ministry, helps keep that focus of, okay, am I doing this because I'm trying to be like, I'm strong and I'll save this? Or has God asked me to be one of his, be a warrior for him in the middle of the hard? But I feel like in the story of Jonah, we see that too, of Jonah could have told his friends, like, man, God is telling me to go to Nineveh. And everyone would be like, no, he's not. Like, you're crazy. Like, the Ninevites were horrible. Like there's like multiple instances in the Bible where the Lord like curses Nineveh and what's going to happen to them because of how horrible they are.
Yeah.
But in the same instance, my dad pointed this out to me. I think it's really cool. This is a whole book in the Old Testament, a whole book in the Old Testament dedicated to God sharing the good news with a Gentile nation.
Yeah.
And that whole part even just kind of washed over me because, you know, you see prophets a lot in the Old Testament, but they're almost always to God's people, the Israelites.
Yeah.
This is what we're seeing in the Old Testament to one of the worst groups of people that there was on earth that day. One of the most brutal, people that were literally mangling and disfiguring the people of God. God was like, no, I need you to go there. Yeah. It's like, why would God ask that of him? So have you ever have you gone through an experience where you're like, obviously you're not being sent to the Ninevites who are trying to disfigure you, but have you been in a situation where you're like, man, I would like to leave, and the Lord's like, you get to stay?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is the wrestle, especially for someone who has been through hard things with the church or with a situation like that, because you go through it and you learn a lot and you go, I'm never going to fall for this kind of thing again. And then you put yourself in a new situation, and I mean, if you want to call them triggers, whatever, like things are going to come up that remind you of your old situation. And you have a decision to make of like, am I just going to write this off because this makes me remember an unhealthy situation back in this other season? Or am I going to ask God, like, is there a reason that you have me here in this different place? Is there something, is there a different way you'd like me to handle this? Maybe you're calling me to love this difficult person that's right in front of me. And I think that in the years past, we've been, you know, Ryan and I have never been on full-time church staff. That's not been our story. We've had multiple different assignments where we're bivocational and we have responsibility to lead worship for a campus or for a church or whatever, but we haven't been full-time on staff. So we have our jobs outside of that. But there's been seasons where we really wrestled because there was a lot going on at the church. There was a lot of people getting hurt. And we have eyes to see that stuff, like almost like X-ray vision, honestly, through everything we've been through. Like we can really tell when there's patterns, when there's people that are validly getting hurt, not just like people that are dramatic, like people we like to say sometimes. And so, you know, part of you goes like, do I want to be aligned with this? Do I like how this looks for me to be aligned with this kind of thing? But I think it takes discipline and hearing the Holy Spirit and hearing the voice of God to realize when it's time to stay and when it's time to go. And sometimes I do think God says, wait, and God says, there's another reason, there's another purpose, there's another reason I have you here right now. And maybe that's for one more person, that whether it's someone on your team that you're serving on, and just to can help maybe you're meant to help them know Jesus better or whatever it looks like. I do think God's timing is perfect and we don't always understand it. But we have been in that place even a little over a year ago, and just discerning when it was time to finally step out of the church that we grew up in. We had come back to when we moved back to our hometown. And it was really hard, and it took a lot for me, or both of us, to like let go, because I also have a big like fixer kind of mindset where I'm like, no, I can stay and I can make it better and I can help. And it was funny for me because, again, with everything that we've been through, I still, my confirmation bias or whatever you want to call it, was I wanted it to work out and I wanted it to make this work. And I was like, still my flesh, my natural side of me is like, how can I bend myself to fit into this specific path and make this work? Because I see how God could use this. I see how it could be very redemptive. And look, God, look at what you're doing. That's so cool. And God was not giving me peace about it. Like we were just kind of listening for the Lord, and we had so much going back and forth. And then finally, when we left, we felt total peace. And it was like, the peace didn't come until the obedience came, you know? And that was hard because I would like to know everything before and go, okay. Yeah. So and there's so many areas of my life that I could talk about this in, because waiting on God, and it's the whole thing.
Isn't it fun?
The whole thing. I'm like, and even literally felt like I had an out of body experience just saying God's timing is perfect. And I'm like, can
You're like,
but I do know it is.
I've been having prayers recently with the Lord where I feel like in January of this year, so we're recording this in June, around, no, even, I think it was maybe December, January, right around that time when days don't count anymore. And I was praying to God about something that's been a prayer of mine for a while, and I felt like he told me soon. And I was like, that I can work with. That I can work with. And now, 6 months ahead of time, the soon in my mind has not happened.
Not soon enough.
No. So then I went back to the Lord and I said, oh, you think you have jokes. I know how you said to the disciples that you would be come back soon, but it's been 2,000 years. So, Lord, can we please use my language next time you give me any timeline? Because if it could be soon in my timeline, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I probably just offended someone for talking to the Lord like that. But
no, I love that. That's very real. And
him and I real.
I relate. Yeah. I relate hard on that because I always say too, like, as far as infertility goes, like talking about all of that, I'm pretty open about on the internet. And it's like, it's the not knowing. That's the hardest part. If we knew, even if it was going to be 5 more years, like, if we knew in 5 years God's going to answer this, I would feel so, I don't know, I would feel so much less tension, like you gave me this to hold on to, and I will make the next 5 years the best because I not feel like I'm striving or waiting for an unknown, but it's the unknown. It feels very vulnerable to be like, here I am still wanting and not knowing.
Yep.
So I totally understand.
Man, just as we're talking, I just keep getting this image of the Passion of Christ, like that whole week where he is going in. We're talking about church hurt. We're talking about waiting on God when circumstances are not our favorite. I just keep picturing all the crowds yelling Hosanna, and by end of the week are yelling crucify him.
Yeah.
And the idea that keeps coming to my mind is how, like, you've been hurt by the church, I've been hurt by the church in different ways, but they've been real legitimate ways that we've been hurt. And I just keep going back to, and not in like to downgrade anything, but just to like, son of suffering.
Yeah.
No one's been hurt by the church more than Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like when you're like, I've gone through church hurt, and Jesus is like, yeah. Same. Yeah. He's like, when we get to heaven, I'll be like, here's the holes. It really hurt.
Yeah.
And that has been, I think, this is a theme that keeps coming up in all of my hallway chat episodes. And I don't necessarily record in order that I'm releasing. So listener friends, you probably will hear more themes of this throughout. And it's co-suffering with Christ. And I don't know why that's the theme. I didn't set out, with all these stories for that to be the theme. But I do think it's interesting that in all of my conversations, it's gone there because I think the Lord is trying to point out to us, like, hey, you co-suffer with Christ because you also co-reign with Christ.
Yeah.
And like, that's the promise. That's the gift, We're not promised necessarily the things that we're waiting for. We can hope for them, but we are promised like eternity with Christ in a way that is so much grander than we can even think or imagine. Yeah. And then even as I think back to what you were saying of, when you do have to stay and serve somewhere that's really tough, because it could be for one other person, one other thing. I always have the picture of when you get to heaven, and I don't know if this is, there's a lot of guesses about heaven, but of when you get there, kind of your entrance is like people that you help get there.
Yeah.
And not that we save anyone, but God chooses to use us. And it's like, oh yeah, it was 100% worth it.
Yeah.
It was 100% worth it to go through that season where I ended in therapy. I ended in therapy too after my school situation where I was like, what the heck just happened? And be like, oh, it was 100% worth it if some of my students, like that was the year things clicked for them. And I'm sure you feel the same way with like, if we get to co-suffer with Christ, that is just foreshadowing the co-reigning we get to do with Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And then the other thing that I was thinking about earlier that kind of coincides with that is sometimes just being willing to know that God does work in seasons a lot. Like, so sometimes he looks at our lives and has us in these different places in different seasons. And I think just, um, and some of them are long and feel a lot longer than we'd like them to be.
Yes.
But even like thinking back to like our church experiences for us, like just in our natural bend and our personalities, like we're naturally stayers. And, which there's someone out there probably, smirking at that because we've had some transitions. And again, it's because we followed God. Like our natural bend was, no, we would like to just dig in roots and be somewhere and long term make it work and have true, like deep community, people that know us, like people that we know. And so I think we had to overcome that misconception of like it being failure for that not to work for us, and because that's how we thought success
That's
in
real.
ministry would look like. We were like this, no, faithfulness looks like sticking it out. It looks like being there for the long haul. And I think God has shown me specifically in the last few years that if I didn't force that ending, you'd still be there. And I didn't want you to still be there,
Yeah.
And so because he had another assignment over here. And so I think some of those transitions that are painful or things that end in ways that are hard or that we would not like sometimes it is God. I know like the quote, like, redirection is so overused, but it's true. Like, I really feel like in protection, it is like, that is a way that God works. Is just putting us in a new place for a new plan and a new purpose. But
100%. So in all of this, in all of the things you've gone through and all the things, we continue to go through, why is the local church still important? Because I know a lot of times people will hear conversations around this, and I've met people where they're like, I don't need, like, I'm part of the global church, the big C church, but like, I don't need the local church. Like, me and God, we're good to go. Why does the local church matter?
I think just down to the roots of it, Jesus loves his church, but also I think it keeps you really humble to be connected to a local church. I think it keeps you now as healthy as you can find one, like as healthy as of a local church you can find one. I really think it helps to be, where else in your life are you plugged into something so multi-generational where you're rubbing shoulders with the older people that have walked with God for 50 years that have stories of his faithfulness and pouring into the younger people that are just coming up. And I just think there's still so much beauty in it. And again, it's always going to be messy, like it's not related to your salvation, but I think it is related to your fruitfulness, if that makes sense. Just
100%.
But quickly we visited a church down the street that it's the biggest church in our area, and it was the one that we thought the least that we would end up at because we were like, no, we're done with big church. We're going to go to a smaller place, like whatever. And something about it just felt safe and it felt like home. And he was the one that immediately was like, I want to go back. And every Sunday he's like, can we go here, and all that. And I'm like, I think even what you said earlier about like Jesus was literally, loved and hated, by what would become the church. Like he was received and, Palm Sunday, welcomed in, Hosanna, all the things. And then the next week was crucified, by the same group of people. And I think, who are we sometimes, even with all of our hurt, and it's valid to leave a place that's unhealthy and to go find somewhere that is, but who are we with all of the things we've been through to go, no, I've been through too much to love the church still. And when Jesus has given his life for it, and I don't want it to be so legalistic of like, you have to go to this building to do that. But I just think there's so much good in being in community and gathering together and worshiping together. And
well, it's also a structure that Jesus gave us.
Yeah. We didn't come up with it on our own.
His church being the people, but we see all through scripture, Paul writing to specific churches and, encouraging us, like, don't forsake assembling together. We see lots of different things of this communal aspect that God has for us, even in his own being of being the Trinity. Like, he was in community from the beginning. The first not good thing was that Adam didn't have Eve. Okay, this blew my mind. Earlier this year, I heard the Lord's Prayer is not in singular pronouns, but plural.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, duh, like everyone knows, Our Father who art in heaven,
Yeah.
hallowed be your name. But it's like, oh,
Corporate.
we are supposed to be doing this together.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's a level of fruitfulness that, again, I don't think it's salvific. I don't think it changes your salvation. But if you are feeling resistant to being a part of our church and just saying, it's just me and God, I would kindly ask you, what's your heart behind that?
Yeah.
Is there a pain that you need to work through? Is there pride that you need to work through? Why don't you want to be in community with the other image bearers of God who also have the Holy Spirit in with them?
But I will say too, like I have a, in my almost 35 years of being a church kid, there's probably 4 or 5 years I could point to that were really hard with the church.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in the church. I grew up with, there was a lot of good too. It wasn't just, hearing good messages or being a part of a worship team or whatever, but it was when, a whole nother part of my testimony is I lost my mom when I was 9, and the church carried us through those seasons, like I don't know how many weeks, months we had, covered dishes on our porch because people were bringing dinner, and
you had every casserole under the sun.
Yeah, and people that just took care of us and carried us through that. And when I look back, and my memory is Jesus was there and God carried us through that, but he used his people. He used his church to do that.
Yeah, I think it's been really cool for me to also see how the Lord has blessed myself and my family through the church. We went through a season where my dad lost his job and then was away with the military for a bit to try, and he was on reserves, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we would have money show up in our mailbox that was like the exact amount to pay a bill that week, or the exact amount to cover a field trip I was going on, or different things like that. Or even fast forward to now, I'm looking at a dining room table. I know you guys can't see it. In my apartment, that is from, I know you talked intergenerational. I serve in babies, so our youngest, love them. And then I'm in there, and then a lot of times there's a lady named Tina in there with me, and Tina, I love her, and she is probably late 50s, would be my guess. Tina, if I'm wrong, so I'm so sorry. But like, I was just like, hey, I've been living in my apartment for a month now, and I need a dining table. If you know of anyone selling a dining table, let me know. And she said, I have one in storage, I will bring it over. And I live on the 3rd floor apartment with a very tight stairwell that is not easy to get up. And her and her friends bought a whole dining table up to my apartment, set it up for me, all for free, and just walked away. And that was just it. Because they were like,
that's amazing.
Why wouldn't I share with you what I have? Right?
Exactly.
So I think it is important to emphasize the amount that the church does bless us over the years, and like, as much as we get to serve others, which is a form of blessing in our own life, the church serves us in different ways in different seasons. And it is just really cool to always see how God's like, hey, I'm gonna answer your prayer through my people. And a lot of times it's people that you're already in community with. Not always, sometimes you get the stranger, but you're like, all right. But a lot of times it's people you're in community with, and it's just a beautiful thing to see unfold.
Proximity, there's a gift in there, like proximity breeds intimacy too. So like, the more that you are a part of the church, like, I feel like it's easier to love it. And I know that's a catch-22, because a lot of people, the more you're a part of a really hard group of people or an unhealthy or toxic system, then it's harder. But when you're really close with the healthy body of Christ, like, you get it. And I think that's something I wrote about recently, where the more you separate yourself from it, the easier it is to stay separate from it, because you're like, I don't relate to that. But I'm really thankful in this last season that we stayed connected enough to different churches, even if we weren't, plugged in and rooted in one place for a while. Like, we were still being around the body of Christ and in different contexts, and almost witnessing what God was doing in these different places of our city. And I think it kept us, like, I don't know, with a heart for it, and just seeing, and one of our mottos of the season is like staying soft. And that's just what it's been, of like, no, I think that in all that we've been through with the Lord, with the church, that he's calling us to stay soft, because we can always look for reasons to harden. We can look for reasons to wall up. And honestly, in a practical, like, secular human way, that would probably be good for us to boundary and to, harden against potential hurt. But I don't think that's what we're called to. I think we're called to
Yeah.
be soft and moldable and trust God with the rest of it, that he will heal when there is hurt, and that we've seen him get us through those things before, and he would do it again. But
100%. Uh, okay, Alicia, before we get to our last question, I just want to know if you have any other thoughts that you'd want to share with us. Also, please tell us where we can find you online, where we can reach you in case, someone that's listening to this is like, I have more thoughts. And
yeah,
they could read some of the stuff you have out there.
yeah, pretty much at the moment I'm on Instagram, probably too often, but at Alicia Bravely, and I changed that became my name a few years ago. Probably I think right after when I started talking about spiritual abuse in church hurt. Because again, as someone who is not a natural, like, I want to rock the boat kind of person, it was very like brave for me to step out and talk about those hard things. And so I've just kept it Alisha Bravely on there. But yeah, I talk a lot about just grief and finding joy and purpose through pain, and what my story has included, which has been church heart and healing and all that from that, and infertility, which I'm still going through. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to share, but you just let me know if we're missing anything. I think we're good. I'm enjoying this conversation. I know that I know I'm a rambler, but
No, it's wonderful.
it's good.
Okay, so the last question, because the show is called The Sunday School Club, if you could start any club you wanted, and it doesn't need to be practical or realistic, what is the club you would start?
The club I would start. Oh my gosh. I'm like, wow. Let me think. Or honestly, the other thing that we haven't talked about, so the other thing that my husband and I have birthed in this whole last year season of life is, it's called the Abiding Collective. And so we do worship.
I've been seeing
night.
some stuff and it looks awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm realizing as I'm telling you, I'm like, we kind of did start a club. I guess it's called the Abiding Collective. But basically it's specifically, we kind of have three groups of people in mind when we do these worship nights. And it's one, people who just love worship. They're going to come to worship nights because they love to worship God.
You got those worshipers.
Two, it's the people we've been talking about that have been wounded by the church, that don't feel comfortable or safe going to a church building yet, but they still love Jesus and they still want to gather in community, or maybe they're in between all those phases of coming back, or not being involved, or whatever it looks like, but just kind of creating another space for people to experience God. And then third is people who serve on worship ministry teams, or just church volunteer teams in general, who they're serving all the time and they never just get to like come and be a part of it.
Yeah, just get to show up.
Yeah. And so it's been really sweet. My husband and I have had this just picture on our hearts for probably the last 10 years of doing something like this. And we're like, we don't know really what it's going to be, but we know we can start with worship nights. So we do a quarterly worship night. So we've done 3 of them. So we're almost 1 year in. And so it's been really sweet. And God's just brought the right people who he wants to be there. And it hasn't been big and flashy. And we just do it to be kind of almost like a stripped back. I mean, we have like full band sometimes, but almost like just a different version, like how we came up in youth group, our worship teams, where there wasn't all the production element, there wasn't all the like fun, flashy stuff.
There was like just Jason who learned the guitar a year ago.
Exactly. And so
and like a cajon in the corner.
And a big part of our heart is just creating opportunities for people who used to lead worship to get back up there and do it again. Even though that oftentimes requires like pushing through a lot of triggers and some of like the past trauma stuff. And we have a big heart to like almost rehab people like that, because we're like,
I love that.
Yeah, I'm really, I would say if I'm stubborn in one direction, it's not letting man have the final say on your calling. Like, I'm just like, no, God called you to that. So you can get back up and you can sing again. You can play that instrument again, even if it was traumatic before, like, let God redeem it. And so that's a big part of our heart. So if I were to start a club, I would say I have started one. It's called the Abiding Club.
I love it. The Abiding Collective. Amazing. Your last one looked gorgeous too. I saw those outside.
There was
It
these
looks
church
so
pews
pretty.
outside, and it was not even that hot. It was a good like weather day, so it was beautiful. It was like in the forest.
What region of Virginia do you live in case anyone's listening? Because I do have
Yeah,
quite a big community of friends in Virginia. So I used to live
yeah.
there.
We live like outside of Richmond, so
Okay,
we're in
cool.
Richmond a lot of the time, but we're like 20 minutes from Richmond.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So if you're in Virginia and you're near Richmond, hit our
Hit
girl
me
up.
up. Yeah.
You can go
Let me know.
sing worship songs in the
Yep,
forest. It'll be
exactly.
awesome. Well, Alicia, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was wonderful talking to you. And to all my students, thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Sunday School Club. If you want to find me, I'm available over on Instagram at Grace Carney. That's at Grace, Kearney. Or if you want to know more about me, what I do, or how to book me out for an event, that's all on my website at www.gracecarneyspeaks.com. As always, to all my students, love you all. Catch you next time.